Hey guys, good morning. Just running around the house this morning trying to get ready to leave. We have to go into downtown Austin to deliver our presentation for South by Southwest. So it's really exciting. And there's a couple big news items that I just want to kind of flag for you really quick. I was about to do my makeup. There's always an element, by the way, of surprise when you're making big plans. I've been anticipating this presentation for a couple weeks now, and it is raining so hard outside. It's already really impossible to get downtown to Austin because of the South by Southwest Festival. So it's going to be a little bit of an adventure. I'm like, oof. The presentation's at 11. I'm giving myself like 2 hours to get there, but the truth is I might actually need all 2 hours. So one of the reasons why that's actually a news item, the weather in Texas, is that there's blizzard warnings in a few major states, like Colorado, Wyoming, even down into Texas. There's likelihood of severe weather this afternoon. So by the time you're watching this video, it might have already hit where you're living. But I always like to sort of mention that because I don't check the weather every day. And it looks like these blizzard warnings or these potential storms could cause some major disruption. So just sort of flagging that for you because I think it's news you can use. In the meantime, there's also some new legislation that's going to be introduced today by Joni Ernst and Mike Lee, two senators, who are proposing to make a federal law for paid parental leave. It's really interesting. The other day, my friend Holly was over, my neighbor, and Holly's expecting a baby. And we were talking about her maternity leave. And I was like, wait a minute, that can't be true. Is that true? I was comparing her maternity leave here in Texas to my maternity leave in New York State because that was the only time that I've taken maternity leave was when I was in New York City. And I sort of forgot that the laws in New York don't apply to Texas. So I was surprised at some of the limitations that she was facing. And anyhow, it's just a good reminder that there is no federal policy for maternity leave. It's state by state, and it really changes. And it also changes with your employer. So it'll be interesting to watch this. There was one report, and this is from an organization that takes a look at developing countries. They said that really the United States is one of the few, if one of the very few that doesn't have a national policy when it comes to parental leave. I'm curious what you guys think about that because I think all of us sort of assume, oh yeah, like when you have a baby, like you get paid time off, but sometimes it's not that much time. It's really not that much time. And I needed all the time I could get. I mean, really. Okay, I'm going to try to do a little makeup while we're talking. So those are two things that I think you should know about today. Also, just want to flag, you're going to see a lot of headlines. It can be a little confusing. British politics is not the easiest thing to follow. But just remember that at the end of this month, Britain is supposed to officially exit the EU. And it's been a drag out fight about how that's going to happen. There are politicians, and this is very general, that want an organized exit. Here's how things are going to go now. And in a couple of years, this is how we're going to divorce. And that there are other politicians that say, we don't want a plan. Like, we don't even want to be attached to the EU. That's not what's going to happen. There are a lot of nuances in those two camps. I'm using broad strokes, but what you should know is that there was a major vote yesterday. There's going to be a vote today. There's going to be a vote tomorrow. And all of these are going to be really important about how the UK eventually separates itself from the EU, if that is eventually what happens. I mean, there is a chance that it could not happen. Right now, it looks like it's going to happen, and it just sort of depends on how it's going to happen. So we're watching that. I'll dig deeper into that and give you more specifics as we get a little bit closer. Every day it seems like there's a couple of developments. So I just want you to know, since we've never seen that in the history of the European Union, that's why we're watching Brexit, and how it's done is important because it could be a model for other countries. So these are high stakes. So I just want you to know that. Those are the three stories I think you should know that are kind of circulating around that I just want on your radar. Of course, you likely have seen this story about these parents and coaches that are wrapped up in this huge scandal at universities all over the country. These are wealthy families that were essentially buying their children's way in to places like Yale. And they were doing it in a couple ways. So one way was for someone like me who didn't score super high in my SATs. I hope you don't think less of me. Things worked out just fine. But I did score high in my SATs. Let's say my parents were like, okay, cool. We're going to pay to change your score to make it more likely that you get into a school. And we're going to pay what looks like a nonprofit or a charity organization and it's going to disguise the payment. And then after that, we're going to write off that charity donation on our taxes. I mean, super deceitful. That's one way the scandal was going down. There's one person at the center of this. It was sort of the maestro, if you will, of all of it. So there was that side of it. And then there was the other side, which was using coaches in Division I schools. These were mostly Division I schools, so big athletic programs get a lot of money. They might say, well, Jenna has no way of getting into Yale, so we're going to pretend that she plays soccer, and the coach is going to allow her to walk on. I don't get a scholarship, but I'm going to walk on the team, and I get a spot on the team, which means I get a spot into school. That I'm never going to show up to soccer practice or say that I had an injury. Oh, and by the way, because I never played soccer, I have no photos of myself playing soccer. So we're going to manufacture photos so it looks like I play. I mean, you guys, it's crazy. It is a crazy thing to read a little bit about, but just the cheating and the deceit and the money that was being used to try to get these kids into school. I was sort of fascinated to learn that there are about 20 million kids that are, I say kids, but they're adults, that are in college right now in the United States. And one of the questions I had is like, how much do these degrees really matter? Like, I know it's pretty awesome for people to say that they went to Harvard, but I got to tell you, at this point in my life, I care less about that. Like, who cares? No offense to Harvard people. I care about you as a person is what I'm saying. I don't really care about your degree. I mean, I think your degree kind of adds something to your story, but like where does it end? What is the real impact? So two things I think you should know about college education, and we've talked a little bit about this with jobs reports. Those with a college education, doesn't matter where you go to school, will historically have a much lower unemployment rate than those that don't have a college degree. So if you have a child that's really debating going to college, I would just introduce that as a fact. It is a fact. Sometimes the unemployment rate for college grads is cut in half from those that don't. So you're more likely to have a job. But it doesn't matter if it's Harvard or it's UC Santa Barbara, where I graduated from. It doesn't matter. It's just the fact that you have a college degree. The second thing you should know is that there is one sort of main research paper that people have used to see, do elite college degrees actually lead to more money? Like, do you actually make more money if you have this elite college degree from Harvard or Yale? So there's one study that was done in like 2003 that then has been used, the research has then been used and analyzed in different ways. And here's what they found out. They found out that in general, no. I mean, the long and the short of it is no. It doesn't really lead to more earning potential per se. For women, it does, because women tend to work more hours if they went to these schools, not because they actually earn more money. And for minority students or for students from low-income families where parents don't have a college degree, the elite college schools, a degree from them do seem to lead to higher incomes. Now, the question is, well, how much? It doesn't really get into that. So I think it was safe to say, based on my reading of this data, and it's a great article in The Atlantic. If you want to take a look at it, we link to it on our source page so you can look at it yourself. So go to smarternews.com, go through our card stack at the end, click View Sources, and you'll see the article that I'm referencing. I thought this was a great article to read about it. It can be a little confusing, so read it slow. But I think the big takeaway from it is it doesn't really matter that much. You're not giving yourself a huge step up, except you are in this group. It could be, there's some things that you can't value, which is like networking, for example, through these sort of high power colleges. Anyhow, it's just one of the craziest stories I've seen in a long time. And I have to say, I was watching the presser on it, and it was sort of nice when law enforcement was just really mapping out, like, there's good behavior and there's bad behavior. This was bad behavior. Like, it's very clear. And some of these folks, I mean, they're facing some jail time. You've seen the famous actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin. They're both potentially facing jail time. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what eventually happens. But I mean, they were arrested. Well, Lori Loughlin at this point, as of this morning, hadn't turned herself in. So, but I mean, her husband did. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine doing that? I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyhow, just want to kind of flag that story for you. Check out our cards today. I think, again, why does this story really matter? Well, first of all, it's the first of his story I've ever really seen like this. But again, one of the reasons why I think a smarter way to look at it is like, does getting into these elite colleges, isn't even worth paying $1 million to try to get your kid into school? Like, does it really affect their lives that much? And the data suggests maybe a little bit. But it looks like their work ethic actually will affect their life more than their degree. So anyhow, that's the story. Okay, I got to get ready, guys. I'll keep you posted on our South by Southwest presentation. And thank you for all the support and love and feedback. I'm using it as part of the presentation, which I'm really excited about. And I'll let you know how it goes. Drive safe out there, everybody. I'll talk to you later.